Hello and welcome back to NorCal 715. Today, look at this. I have a vintage Sony FM AM stereo receiver, model STR-6036A. I have not even plugged this unit in. I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. So let's go ahead and plug it in and see what happens. Okay, so I've got speakers connected. It's plugged in. Let's turn it on. Look at that. Wow. Well, the amplifier's working. Tape monitor is on. Turn that off. So if anything, this thing just needs a good cleaning. So let's go ahead and take it apart. Oh my gosh, so look at this. I've got the covers off and this thing is just such a beautifully designed receiver. They just don't make them like this anymore. Look at these circuit boards. Got a fairly smallish power transformer. This thing's probably only about 25 watts per channel. Let's look at the top. Look at that point-to-point wiring. I mean, this thing is just beautifully designed. They just don't make them like this any longer. Look at that tuning capacitor right there. 3 gangs for FM, 2 gangs for AM. You can tell the FM gangs are the wider space gangs, these 3. And then these 2 right here are for AM. Lower frequency. But just look at the way this thing is designed. Oh my gosh. I wish stuff was made like this today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out and blow it out, get all the dust off of here, completely gone. Try to clean it up a little bit. Then we'll go from there. Alright, so I've got it all cleaned out. It's all blown out. Look at that. Nice and clean. What a difference. So, upon inspecting this unit, one thing I really don't like to see on these units is that right there. STK-054. A hybrid power module. So what that means is all the power output transistors are in this device right here. And there's another one over here. Right there, STK-054, hard to see it back in there. And I've never been a fan of hybrid power output devices. Stereo receiver manufacturers have been using these for years. It does cut down on the cost of manufacture because everything is designed inside this chip. There's normally the 2 output transistors plus some driver components. Maybe some speaker protection circuitry is built into some of these. I don't believe this one has that. It's probably just power output transistors and driver transistors in here, most likely. Panasonic use these big SVI chips, I call them. They had everything in them. the power output transistors, the drivers, as well as the DC bias output detection circuit to enable the speaker relay, and they were just trouble. I would much rather see individual discrete components, which by this time most manufacturers have gone back to. They've gone back to discrete output transistors, NPN and PNP for the positive and the negative rails, as well as discrete DC offset detection to enable the speaker output relay to connect or not if there's a DC offset on the speaker output line. So now that I got this all cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and clean and lube all the volume and tone controls as well as the input connection switches with my Deoxit D5. Now all of these are very easy to access. Let's spray some cleaner down in here. Work the switches a few times. So now when I've got a pot to clean, I'm just going to give it a shoot. We'll work it back and forth a few times. These are hard to get to, but they do have a hole on the side. Now we'll clean these switches. Now these switches actually have the switch assembly back in this area right here. This rotary assembly is a bunch of cogged teeth, and it just moves the switch forward and backwards as you turn the knobs. So it's out, I turn the knob, it goes back, turn the knob, it comes back this way. So, I'm just going to go ahead and douse it really good. Now we'll give it one more shoot going around here. This one I can shoot from the back actually. I'll hit these guys one more time. Work the controls back and forth. This one's a dual gang pot. This one's going to be harder to get to. Get to the back components very easily, but the front components are very hard to reach. It's under the headphone jack. Try to sop up some of the extra cleaner that's on the board. Next, I'll flip it back over. So here's the tuning capacitor. And so there's these little wipers right here. There's one right there. There's one on this side right here. There's one right here. And there's one right here. Very hard to see. They provide a ground to this common rod in the center of this as you rotate the tuning capacitor. And so what happens over time is these things get oxidized from lack of use. So I'm going to give it a shoot. And we'll work it back and forth a few times. Got it wide open there. We'll give it one more little toot. Work it back and forth a few times. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it back out and blow it back out to make sure that there's no residual residue on the tuning capacitor plates, because that could be a bad thing. So I'm going to go blow it back out right now. Okay, so let's fire this baby up. Volume down. Power on. No more crackling. Yeah, it's working absolutely perfectly. The meter lamp is out. So let's look at replacing those lamps with some LEDs that I have. So originally, the meter display had this, what's called a fuse lamp, which is an 8-volt filament type lamp that looks like a fuse. So I went ahead and replaced that with a couple of LEDs, anode to cathode, cathode to anode, because it's AC voltage, and a 1K resistor. So I turn the unit on. You see they're both lit up. We'll go ahead and put it back in place and see what it looks like. Alright, so there it is. Look at that. Tuning meter looks great with the LEDs back in it. Can't even hardly tell. If this video has helped you, please consider making a donation to my YouTube homepage with the PayPal donate button, or at paypal.me/norcal715. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.